Hey folks, it's August. I'm at the Biblical History Museum here in LaGrange, Georgia. We are in the room that is constructed to look like a room 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem where Yeshua, Jesus, and his disciples would have had the Passover Seder. And what I'd like you to do is to take a look at the way the table is shaped over here. The table looks like a U shape, and you can see here. You can see how it would have looked. Now, of course, when you look at tradition and the Da Vinci pictures, it shows this just one long table. And of course, Jesus would have been seated in the middle and so on and so forth. And folks, that's not biblical. That's not how they would have done it. Actually, looking at the U-shaped table over here, Jesus would have been seated on this side here, and the rest of the disciples would have been seated over here. And by the way, it wasn't on chairs. They would recline on pillows, and it would be on the Shabbat, or if it was a high holy day, wherever the Passover would have fallen on. If it would have fallen on a Tuesday, that would have been a high holy day. That would have been a high Sabbath. Or if it was a Monday, Thursday, whatever, it would have been a high Sabbath. So wherever day the Passover fell, it would have been that high Sabbath day. But they would have reclined on pillows here on something similar to this, a U-shaped type table. And again, folks, Jesus would not have been seated in the middle. That's not biblical. It's always been Jewish tradition to have the head of the host of the Passover Seder. He would have been seated on the left side of the U-shaped table for the Passover. You see, if you go into Israel and you look at the way the Passover table would have been seated, you would have noticed that Jesus would have been sitting on to the left, as the other disciples would have been seated and reclined on pillows on the floor there, the Passover Seder. So, it's kind of dark in here right now, but this is pretty much what it would have looked like right here, looking at this U-shaped type table. And of course, when my wife and I come back here, we're going to actually have a biblical meal at this center, and we're going to recline on pillows. And so what I want to do right here, let's see, I want to try to do something a little bit different there. And I'm going to try to see, I'll just put this right here. And of course, over here they have regular seats for you to sit down if you're not able to recline. But 2,000 years ago, they would have pretty much did something like what I'm doing. Just pretty much on the floor here. And I would have just had me a biblical meal, a kosher meal back then. And of course, Jesus at the Passover table, when he was drinking the cup, he said, "This cup is the new covenant, the Brit Hadashah, the new covenant of my blood, which is shed for you." That's right out of Jeremiah chapter number 31. He said, "The next time I drink this cup with you, I will drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And of course, he's talking about that future kingdom to come. He's talking about the millennial kingdom mentioned in Revelation chapter 20, verses 2 through 7, and other passages that we find in the scripture. So this is how they would have reclined. They would have laid down in this position right here. And of course, they would have had the Passover meal. So this just takes you back 20 centuries, folks. This takes you back 2,000 years ago, this U-shaped table. As a matter of fact, the church that I'm preaching at in Roanoke, Alabama, they have an olive wood sculpture that they bought in Bethlehem. They paid $5,000 for it, even though the guy wanted 10 grand for it. It's a beautiful wooden sculpture of Yeshua, Jesus and his disciples, reclining on the table in that U-shaped table with Jesus seated on the left. They're all reclining on pillows on the floor, pretty much as you see me right now. And they're enjoying the Passover Seder, what they would say Pesach, Chag Sameach Pesach, Happy Passover, as they would say in Hebrew. So this place is just absolutely amazing. I can't wait to come back here, my wife and I, to actually recline on the floor. I'm not on a chair, folks. I'm just laying on the floor with my upper torso leaning over against this table here. And just as Jesus and his disciples would have done it 2,000 years ago. So this is just absolutely Amazing. Well, from LaGrange, Georgia, this is August Rosado with Today in Bible Prophecy Ministries, coming from the Biblical History Museum. Shalom.